And now,
ladies and gentlemen,
please fasten your seatbelts.
Welcome to PreneurCast.
Business cards being swapped, beers being drunk.
Can I say a nasty word? Can I say procrastination?
With Pete Williams and Dom Gocher.
how well did that go down?
We can talk about that entire thing in a very another rant and soapbox episode if we want to.
Visit us online at preneurmedia.tv.
Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of PreneurCast with me, Dom Goucher, and him, barely, Pete Williams. How you doing, Pete?
Not too bad, mate. My voice is losing a little bit. It's not as bad as it has been the last few days, but it's still a bit Barry White and sensual at the moment.
There's a new product there somewhere, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. So it's just a bit croaky. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but producing a lot of content for a lot of different products and consulting gigs and all that sort of stuff have kind of meaning I've had to use my vocal cords a lot more than I have been the previous few weeks. So I guess it's a shock to the system.
The perils of being in demand, hey?
Something like that. It's it. Silver lining. I love it.
Okay, so let's not hang about too much. Let's get the content out of you while we still can. Before we jump in, what topic are we going to talk about this week?
Well, I want to talk about stick. We touched on that in a very recent episode, and I thought it's worth discussing because stick strategies are important in business, and there's a lot of sort of confusion around the term and negative connotations and all that sort of stuff. And I thought it's worth talking about here on the show.
Okay, we did ask around if anybody could come up with a better word for stick, but we haven't got one, so stick it is. Can you give us a quick, very brief kind of definition of what you mean by stick, just so that everybody's clear? Get frame as we like to do. We like to frame what we're doing and give it some context. So can you pop everything in a frame for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So stick in this context is not in the made to stick context that the fantastic book by Chip and Heath wrote about making your marketing sticky. This is about stick strategies for reducing refund rates. It's very, very prominent in the direct response, particularly in the direct response information marketing game, but anywhere with traditional direct response type selling. So teleseminars, direct mail, infomercials, all that sort of stuff, where it's almost like an impulse type buying decision. Stick strategies come into that, but it's also very, very important in a lot of businesses to have that stick as well for numerous reasons which we can discuss.
So it is really just different methods and techniques that you can use to make sure that people stick with you. That's where it comes from, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we always talk about, when we talk about the Preneur hierarchy, the easiest people to sell to are previous clients. And if you really sort of think about it, someone who's purchased, that's considering refunding for a vast range of reasons, often quite legitimate. So it's not about trying to get someone who had a legitimate reason to request a refund to stay with you. But for those people who sort of are on the fence and are thinking about getting a refund, if you can make them stick and actually implement and get value from your product or service, it's almost like making an additional sale you would have otherwise lost, because that revenue would have had to been given back. So it's sort of like a negative sale almost. Yeah,
I mean, that is one of those things that I think some people don't think about, and it's quite a prevalent issue in this new industry of internet marketing or information product sales, where it's easy for people to refund and return products because it's just information, it's just a membership or whatever. And so I personally think it's always been important, and a lot of people have ignored it. But right now, with that particular industry, it's really, really important to pay attention to this.
I think just the economy at the moment as well. So, look, it's applicable to any business. So let's sort of delve in a little bit. And cool. Before we talk about, I guess, stick strategies, let's actually kind of, get to the root cause of a lot of refund requests and go through sort of some of the main reasons people actually ask for refunds.
Okay.
Because obviously if we can sort of mould our sales funnel and the way we actually operate to sort of eliminate refunds up front prior to making the sale, actually obviously is a stick strategy in itself if you look at it that way.
I love that. It's like, just like we were talking about last week, you've just always got that extra perspective on things. So it's great. It's absolutely perfectly logical. It's just, again, something people might not have thought about. But yeah, one of the ways to reduce refunds is on the front end in the first place. So I want to hear what you've got for that one. Go ahead.
Sure. So obviously, a lot of refunds are due to the overpromise, underdeliver type situation where the salesperson, the sales message, and the marketing communication oversells what you actually deliver. So you don't want to ever overpromise and underdeliver. So if you're making statements in your marketing, and we've spoken a lot about how it's not about the product, it's about the marketing. And that doesn't mean you can market crappy products and expect people to stick around and be clients not only once but multiple times. You want to make sure that you've got a damn good product that it matches all your promises, but then really devote all your efforts to actually market it effectively, not oversell or overhype it or overpromise it, but just market it really well. So there's a big distinction there that hopefully people get, because you want to make sure you always underpromise and overdeliver. Because obviously, if you exceed people's expectations, then that makes a huge difference to the refunds and people's enjoyment of the process in dealing with you.
Very good point. I've heard the phrase before: always underpromise and overdeliver, and it's a great policy to have, definitely. But also there was another important point there that you made, which is make sure you start with it's almost a given, but it's worth saying. Make sure you start with an awesome product. Make sure that you don't promise the earth. Make sure you deliver on what you promise, and make sure that thing is up to scratch. And that's going to avoid disappointment. And as you say, disappointment is one of those reasons why people refund.
Yeah, exactly right. So I guess another step, or an extension almost, to that first one, is you need to educate to manage expectations. And what I mean by that is that if you're selling, let's say, for example, a phone system, there's a lot of steps involved in the implementation of a phone system sale. Maybe you're doing some sort of consulting work, or there's obviously a delivery process involved with that. You want to make sure that every step of that delivery process is enjoyable and you're meeting the client's expectations. So to do that, sometimes you need to educate them and change their expectations in a positive way. Some people might have, we've all experienced clients in any business where their expectations are just unrealistic. And that's just the nature of business. But if you can sort of manage their expectations, explain what the process will be, communicate to them all the way through whatever process it is, that'll actually help them feel like they're getting a much better service. And again, obviously, reduce refund rates.
Absolutely, and again, I mean, we've talked about this in various places. We talk about it inside the 7 Levers training, where educating the client during the sale is another way to actually increase opt-ins and conversions, because those people build more trust for you because of the knowledge that you've got and the knowledge you're conveying. Yeah.
Yep.
It's almost like consultative selling, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One really interesting thing that fits right in just after what you've just said that I heard, and we've talked about a guy called John Carlton a few times. He's a quite well-known copywriter in the internet space. And I saw him speak at a conference we were both at in San Diego a couple of years ago. And he said his entire presentation was great and really interesting, but the first thing he said, the whole room gasped. And I just want to bring it up because it's really relevant. He said, the best favor that you can do any potential client is to tell them why they don't want to buy your product. and the whole room went quiet. And I think I was one of the few people that understood what he was trying to say. He went on to explain it. He basically said, and it's back to your disappointment and overpromise and underdeliver point and educating the client. It's all that kind of wrapped up into one. The last thing you want is for somebody to give you money and then find out that what you've got isn't for them. That's a guaranteed refund. It's like them buying some clothes and taking them home and they don't fit. Yeah, that's why we have changing rooms in clothing stores, so that people can try things on, so that when they hand over the money, they're going to not try and return that garment. And it's the same. And so in that marketing, in that sales copy, you need to be absolutely clear what they're getting. You need to educate and manage expectations. And one of those reasons is so that they're absolutely clear that what they're paying for is really what they think they're going to get.
Yep,
because that in itself
negative
is
qualifiers, putting in negative qualifiers into your marketing. Absolutely.
There you go with the technical terms. negative qualifiers. I knew there'd be a word for it, even if you made it up.
Trademark Pete Williams.
But yeah, negative qualifiers is a nice succinct way of saying it. But basically, this isn't for you if.
Absolutely, exactly
and
right.
there's lots of other ways of doing that, and maybe sometime else we can talk about that. But just the idea of these negative qualifiers, making sure people are absolutely clear what the product is, what they're going to get, what the service is, what's going to be delivered, is all another positive way of avoiding that disappointment and avoiding those refunds. So we're still on the front end, and we're increasing the likelihood of your clients sticking with you.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think a lot of it is just people think that every sale's a good sale, and when you sort of don't have any sales, that's probably pretty true. But sometimes it's worth putting these negative qualifiers in place so you don't get the sale in the first place, to actually avoid all the headaches of the implementation of whatever sort of product or service you've got, to then deal with all the hassle afterwards. If you think it's only going to be a hassle up front, they're probably going to be worse after they transact with you, because once they've given you your money, their expectations go up, unjustifiably in a lot of occasions.
Absolutely. I mean, that again, it speaks to the same thing tell people why they shouldn't buy your product. It's all part and parcel of that same thing. But it's a good and separate point, and you're absolutely right that people expect a lot. Once they've given you their money, they expect quite a lot from you. And any way to weed out those people, it is difficult, and it's something. I mean, maybe we'll talk about this. You and I have talked about this before. It's what I call the $400 problem, and I'll leave that out there as an open loop for people. But it's that idea that any sale is a good sale, and it's absolutely not true. It's a difficult mindset to get yourself into when, as you say, when you're not making any sales. But as you progress and grow your business, it's one of the most powerful realizations that you can make, that some sales are better than others, and some sales are really considerably worse than others. And it's that idea that some people call it, fire your C-class clients, as they say. Mm-hmm. Weed out the people that cause you trouble. Tim Ferriss talks about it in the 4-Hour Work Week. About he reviewed his client base, and he realized, another big phrase, the 80-20 rule. He realized that even less than 20% of his clients were generating more than 80% of his revenue. And so overnight, he basically fired 80% of his clients. And his work day and the stress and support costs and everything just went completely. Everything changed overnight. Everything went positive, and all was great and rosy. And that's a big thing to do, and it's quite hard. But in a very simple way, what we're talking about here is just putting things out there to make sure that you're attracting the right client. You're attracting somebody who's not going to be disappointed. You're attracting people who aren't going to cause you trouble down the line. You're attracting the right mindset of client. You're attracting the right level of client. All those different things. Again, it's all back to the same point, which is stick. Getting people to stick with you. You don't want a disappointed client. You want a happy client, whether it's with a single sale for a single product, or whether it's a long-term client that keeps coming back and buying products or services from you. And it's all part and parcel of the same thing.
Absolutely. So I guess moving on from what you can do prior to making the sale, what can you do after the sale? Because there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes up with people, particularly in the information and marketing space. And I know a good portion of our audience is selling information online, and particularly with the guarantees that are very prominent and really do help increase conversions. There's a lot of people out there who will buy your product, download it, and then request a refund. It's ridiculously common in the ClickBank marketplace. So what can you do to avoid that in the information marketing world, which is where Stick is really spoken about heavily, but also we can talk about some strategies for real world companies as well. So from a perspective of information marketing, one of the things is what you want to try and do is leave some great value for after the jump. And what that sort of term means is obviously what you want to do is have something available to people who stick around after the money back guarantee period. So whether it's some of the bonuses or some additional content or a really key bit of the learning, whatever it might be, is given after the jump. So they can't get everything unless they go through the money back guarantee period. So the money back guarantee is all about giving them a good, solid, entree and main meal, and then the dessert is after the jump.
Yeah, and that's a great way of summarising that. I mean, just to talk to that, one of the most common things that people do is that, as you say, after the jump, is that they add value to the course in very simple ways, like adding extra modalities. Mm-hmm. For example, after the refund period, maybe they add, well, the most simple would be a downloadable version of the course.
Yep.
Like a downloadable version of the videos if it's a video-based course. Or they offer the videos pre-rendered into audio format, or they offer transcripts, or all those things. And I remember being part of a Q&A session once, and somebody said, "Oh, but even before you offer the download, people can download it. They'll take it anyway." And it's a little bit of a side topic, but this is really important, because being the slightly more technical of the two here, the response that I heard was great, which was, look, if somebody really, 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 really wants to do something, they will. We're talking about the general populace. We're talking about the everyday people here.
Yeah,
We're not trying
you never market to the fringes.
Yeah, you never market to the fringes, and you also do not spend 80% of your effort worrying about 2% of the people that are going to buy. Those people that have the technical knowledge to do these things, like download a video before you've given them a download link, well, good luck to them, off you go. But if you spend your effort worrying about those people, you're not going to be focusing on the quality product delivery to the real client base. So let's ignore that and let's come back to the point, which is a great way to stop reflex refunds. It is, as you say, adding that extra value after the jump is the term, the common term used in the industry. So if you have a refund period saying that's 30 days, after 30 days there's plenty of things that you can do. You can carry on extending the product, you can offer different modalities, you can offer bonuses, offer downloadable versions, all those different things for anybody that actually does stick and doesn't refund. It can often be that simple, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other element that people need to consider, no matter what business or industry they're in, is the buyer's remorse, reflux or reflex that happens in every sort of industry. No matter what you're selling, what you're doing, people do have that buyer's remorse. They make an investment, they make a decision, and they suddenly start thinking, oh, did I make the right one? Because people hate making wrong decisions. It's just a natural emotional reaction to making a decision. It happens in every decision on various levels in your life. So whether it's about buying a product, about meeting a girl at a nightclub, picking a meal at a restaurant, how many people have that food envy? I know Fleur is just crushed by food envy.
I wish I'd ordered that.
Yeah, it's a natural reaction to have that buyer's remorse, that order's remorse, that whatever it is remorse. It's just a natural part of human nature. So what you want to try and do is, once people have made an educated decision, a smart decision that you've laid all the pros and cons on the table and done all you need to do in a very ethical manner. Obviously that's pretty straightforward and obvious to do when you're making a sale and making a pitch. But what you want to try and do is just reinforce that person, talk to them emotionally, talk to them logically after the fact to reinforce they made the right buy, the right choice. Because the saying goes, people buy on emotion and justify with logic. So what you should be doing is, as soon as the sale's been made, giving some sort of additional supporting information to lock in that sale and reinforce the wise move they made. Now, it's not about selling past the buy line. It's about reinforcement after the buy line. And what I mean by that is a whole bunch of terms and weird stuff going on today, isn't there?
You're pulling them all out.
Selling past the buy line is a sales term from, as my voice starts to go, is a term for when someone has, heard enough information to make a buying decision and you just keep talking at them. You oversell it, and people then just get pissed off by you and go somewhere else because of you, the salesperson, and you, the pitch you've made, not because of the offer. That happens all the time. So I'm not talking. You want to make sure you never sell past the buy line. Once someone gets that buy line, ready to make a decision, take their order, ask them the question, and move on. And that's all about, you get someone what you think is close to the buy line, make them an offer, a check move. If they say no, keep going. Get them closer to the buy line, ask them again. It's continually doing that. So you don't have to keep talking until I interrupt you to say I'm going to purchase. What I'm talking about with this particular stick strategy is once they have made that decision, filled out the order form and all that sort of stuff, you're reinforcing and supporting why they made the correct decision. So maybe it is a welcome pack that you can leave with the person who's requesting your roof tiling. Maybe it's an immediate win you can give somebody if what they've ordered is a delayed gratification type event. So maybe they've purchased a car, hypothetically, and it's going to take 6 weeks to get the car delivered. Well, obviously, people don't want to have that buyer's remorse in that 6 weeks when they start seeing other cars on the road and all that sort of stuff. So what can you give that person is in the interim to help build up the anticipation and excitement for the product you're selling them? So maybe it's movie tickets, maybe it's some sort of other bonus that can be related directly to the product or even completely unrelated, but something just to reinforce that purchase decision, help with that anticipation and reduce that buyer's remorse.
Yeah, a very old, really old example of that, of the quick win or the reminder kind of thing. I once heard, and this could be an apocryphal story, but I heard the story that a luxury car manufacturer was known to send audio recordings of the engine noise to buyers because when you get to a certain level of luxury car, you have to wait a while because they're going to build it with care and attention and a lot of hand tooling. So there's a delay, and yeah, they used to send, and it's a great example though, isn't it? Of you've bought something that there's a delayed gratification, so giving somebody something to remind them, something possibly emotive like that. If you buy a luxury car at a certain level, then one of the things you're going to have bought it for is the noise that the engine makes, so you put your foot down. So sending that, I think it's a good example. Another thing, and this is something that we do, is just a quick, like with an information product. It's just a quick hi, hey everybody, thanks for buying. We're really looking forward to working with you. This is an overview of what you're going to get. Just kind of not selling after the line, but just reiterating that they've made a good decision and that they're going to get what they paid for, and a little bit of a personality thing in there as well. Yeah,
exactly right, about having some personality. So I think everybody, a bit of a takeaway for this episode, we'll give it, early on today, not at the end, is that, if you are doing something in your business and selling a service or something where the actual delivery and the outcome results like after the actual transaction. So what I mean in retail, obviously, the result happens at the actual cash register at the time of transaction. You pay money, you walk away with the product you've purchased. But if you're in a service-based business or in a product-based business where delivery takes time, you need to make sure you put something in between that transaction and the delivery of that, whether it is something to actually help manage expectations or something as well to help reinforce the purchase decision.
That's a great tip.
Yes, I was going to say something else we also do is often just surprises. Just even even during the product delivery, for some of the courses that people invest in with us, I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag here, but often surprise them with a book just that is related to the conversation or the question they asked on the Q&A or the topic we spoke about in a particular consulting session. I'll just send them a book by surprise, which is, it's value adding. You can class it as a stick strategy because it helps build that relationship so they stick around for future purchases, because just as important as stick is to reduce refunds, stick is just as important to get people to come back and purchase from you again and again and again. And this is important as part of the 7 levers. Getting people to purchase from you multiple times in a given period of time increases the profit of a business. So it's not about just making additional offers to people to get them to spend more with you. It's about actually building that relationship with them and having them stick around as a lifetime customer.
Absolutely, and I love that, and you were the first person that I came across that did that particular thing, where if somebody buys a product from you, especially in fact if it's an information-based product, so it's an online thing and there's nothing really tangible. People love tangible things. They love physical objects. And in this day and age of Amazon, and especially if you have Amazon Prime, where you pay a really small flat fee, and across the entire year shipping is free on any number of objects, then you're talking about between $10 and $20 to ship a book even with a personalized message, because you can use the gift wrap option on Amazon. So if somebody buys a non-physical product from you, an information product, and pop on Amazon, or even better, get your outsourced VA person, give them a spreadsheet with a list of information on it, and pop on Amazon and send out something physical. Send something to them with a little note on it saying, hi, thanks for buying, thanks for becoming a member of the tribe, the community, looking forward to seeing you inside the product, blah, 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 looking forward to your feedback. But in the meantime, hey, look, this is something I think is really relevant to the course or the information or what we've talked about, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And it's just an order of magnitude more personal. And it just builds that relationship. It will make you stand out from the crowd. They're going to know you've spent money on them. They're going to know that you didn't just take their money and walk away, that you've taken some of your profits from everything and given it back. And all those things go to build that relationship. And as you say in the 7 levers, one of the least... The reason why we did the 7 levels, the reason why we talk about it so much, is because people think about the first 3 steps, the getting the traffic, getting the opt-ins, and getting the conversion. After they've taken that initial money, there's 4 more areas of a business that you can use and pull a lever to increase the overall profit of the business. And getting somebody who's bought from you once to stick with you and buy from you again is a really, really big one. Because that sale is so much easier. Linking back to the Preneur hierarchy as well, as you said at the beginning. Those people that are already clients and already have a relationship with you and trust you and follow what you do and say and appreciate it are more likely, or easier to market to and sell another product to than somebody you've never met and has never heard of you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about that relationship, because it's so much easier to leverage a relationship with someone you already have contact with than going cold to someone new. So you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah. All right, I can hear your voice starting to tail off. Is there any more big wins we can get out of this?
I had one more quick thing I wanted to mention as well, in terms of just a rule to not offend and abuse your customers. And what I mean by this is that once someone has actually purchased from you, make sure you market and communicate to them completely differently to how you did before they were a customer. Because if you've got a marketing system in place that is sending offers regularly to prospects, that's fantastic, and you're implementing stuff which is great. But once they actually transact with you, make sure they're not getting hit with the same sort of messages, because obviously you may have some sort of sequence in place, hopefully automated, that continually makes different sort of offers to your prospects until they decide that offer is right for them and they transact with you. But what happens if someone purchases a package A with you right now, and then in 3 weeks' time, whatever it might be, during their money back guarantee period, they see an offer which is better for them, different for them, whatever it might be, they're going to want a refund to get that new particular offer that you've hit them with. So what you need to make sure you do is, once they transact with you, they get into a different sales funnel. You should always have a different communication and marketing funnel for clients versus prospects.
Absolutely. And you can make that as complicated or as straightforward as you want. If you're using an email autoresponder system, which we recommend, I know personally that one of the ones that I use, which is Aweber, has this thing that if somebody joins one particular mailing list, you can tell it to remove them from another. So if when they buy a product, it triggers them being on a list, which is just one thing, it's just a standard piece of configuration, you can tell Aweber to when they enter to that list, they're pulled off another, and that's it. They start getting different messages. And I mean, your example there, Pete, was good, that you could offend somebody that's already bought by giving them a separate, different offer. I think it's actually even more simple than that. I think it's back to that relationship thing, that people that buy from you, that have bought from you, are your customers. They're part of your community, part of your tribe, and you should treat them differently. You should give them more attention. You should make them feel that they've become part of that community, rather than they've bought something but they still hear the same messages that everybody hears. There's nothing extra that since they bought from you, and that to me is almost like the first step, and it's slightly less. Your point is important and very valid, but I think that it's just there's a slightly different level to it as well.
Absolutely. Now I want to finish off with 2 grey suggestions, just for some fun.
Did you say grey or great?
Grey.
Oh, go ahead.
We're get a bit dark now. This is.
I see.
Just some creative ways of stick that I have seen implemented across the globe in different fashions by different companies. One way.
Okay, I'm getting ready with my sorbet ideas to clean the palate after you've started to darken our reputation. Okay.
So one way is to. I got to say this nicely without sounding too dark. Is put a system in place that makes it easier to implement than refund. And what I mean by this is...
I don't think that's grey at all.
No? Okay. So, because you're fundamentally discouraging refunds. And you're putting a system in place to proactively discourage refunds. So some people actually think that's a bit wrong. And what I think you should be doing is, give people refunds. There's no question about that. It's pretty obvious, I think. But if you can make it easier for people to actually implement, so people have an option of I can either refund X, Y, Z, and I have to jump these 3 hurdles. I've got to fill out an RMA form. I've got to post it in. Whatever the process is, you can have the moral compass of how many steps and how hard and how discouraging you're making refunds. But if you can make the choice for someone to actually implement or refund, easier for them to actually take the implementation and get the result that they wanted when they first transacted with you, that they had value of, that the actual result obviously had more value to them than the money in their pocket. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done the transaction at the time, because that's how commerce works. You have $100. I have a solution to your problem. I feel that the solution is worth more to me than my $100 is worth to me, so I'm going to swap. That's what commerce is. So if you can make and reinforce to them that actually implementing and getting that result is easier than actually getting the refund of that $100, that is a great way to, reduce refund rates.
Oh, okay, all right. That definitely needs a little sorbet. Right. I'm not a great fan of making even the principle of making refunds difficult. But what I am a great fan of is the positive spin on what you said, which is making it easy to implement. So by adding some very simple things to whatever it is that you are selling, you can easily increase or decrease the friction for people that might otherwise go, I can't do this, it's too hard, it's not what I thought it was, whatever. A really simple thing can just be, let's say you're selling an information product online and there's, say, 20 videos, and somebody goes, whoa, hang on a minute, like that's a lot of watching that I've got to do. Oh, no, it looks hard. Ooh. Just make one extra video or maybe a PDF that says, hey, why not start here? And just give them maybe a little bit of a triage assessment of their problem situation, walk them through assessing where they are right now and make some suggestions about where they start. Tell them what the best way to go through the course might be. Just things like that to make it easier to use the material. Yeah? One of the things we've talked about with one of our clients is that they were getting refunds on physical objects. And they actually did research. Well done, top marks. they did what we said, which is whenever you're not sure about something, why not ask? So they asked the clients why they were getting the refunds. There's nothing wrong with the product. The product is a top-line product, but it turned out that the instructions for constructing the object were too complex or weren't sufficient, and some people were just literally, part A was ending up in part Z by accident. It looked like a balloon animal instead of whatever it was supposed to be, and they were just getting fed up, putting it all back in the box and sending it back. Mm-hmm. And by doing that research, they've gone ahead and put in place a plan to put their own instructions in the box along with the manufacturer's instructions, and they've got a result.
Yep.
Yeah. It's making it easier. It's the same thing you just said. It's making it easier to implement than it is to refund.
Yeah. Well,
it's just a slightly more positive slide.
Let me throw you another one, and you can clean it up for me.
I'm just doing my warm up now. I'm getting into this. Go on.
Yeah. Increasing the money back guarantee period at time of refund request, and there's plenty of statistics to say that the longer the money back guarantee period, the more likely it was going to increase sales, and the more likely it's going to actually reduce refund rates. And the reason for the statistic, and it's not that in itself is not the tactic I'm talking about, but the reason for the result of that is actually a result of human nature. Is if someone has 12 months to refund something, they'll buy it, they may put it on the shelf, whatever it might be, and knowing they've got 12 months to actually get the result, and then out of sight, out of mind occurs, and they forget about it till after the refund period. So the longer the refund period, the more time people think they have to implement, which generally results in less likely to refund straight away because they don't have that impulse. It's like, oh, I've got 11 months to get this working. I don't have to do it now. I can worry about it later. Whereas if you purchase something and you've only got a 3-month money-back guarantee and something happens in your life that you can't get the result in 3 months, you're going to refund straight away because you realise I cannot get this done within 3 months. But 12 months longer period gives you more scope for implementation. You put it aside, you forget about it, out of sight, out of mind. So what I've seen and happen to the success of reduced refunds, whether it's right or wrong, is actually at the time of refund request, actually offer the person, well, you're 6 weeks into your 3-month money-back guarantee period. Let me actually increase that money-back guarantee period for you to 9 months. So you've got plenty more time to continue to test and play with the product and make sure it's right before you send it back for a full refund. Really get that result. So I've seen that work as a way to reduce refund rates because you're basically offering somebody with hope that the out of sight, out of mind is going to occur.
Okay. Yeah. I like simple things, and if it's a manual intervention thing, if somebody's got to ring you up or come to a shop or do something like that to ask for the refund, then that's not a bad thing to do. It's a positive response to a potentially negative situation. It's a little bit sneaky, but mixing what you just set up with what your previous point was, maybe one way to put a totally positive win-win on the whole situation is to offer the longer refund up front, but to make sure that people give evidence that they had a good go.
Yep.
Because what you don't, we've talked about people, we've talked about refund reasons, we've talked about got the wrong product, we've talked about didn't live up to expectations, and then we've also talked about people that buy and immediately refund because they've downloaded an information product, or that something happens in their life and they don't implement, or they just plain don't implement. Yeah. And a lot of this is oriented around the same kind of thing, which is information products. But this is because it's the easiest thing to refund. It's the biggest problem people face. So I've seen this a couple of times. People have said, especially with a bigger product that's got a higher price ticket, they say, there's a number of systems or tactics involved in this product. If you can show me that you tried and did not get the result or did not get a result after you tried to implement this, I will happily give you a full refund even 12 months down the line.
Yep.
And that works for everybody because, one, it encourages people to implement. Two, if they really did implement, if they really did get their finger out, they really did give it a good go, and it really didn't work, well, fine. They've made an effort. They're not just reflex refunding. They've got a genuine issue. They're genuinely not got what they wanted. Fine, refund. That's a genuine refund, and there's no reason not to give a genuine refund at all. But at the same time, you've extended that refund period, so everybody's got a good chance to implement. You're giving everybody a fair chance. You're adding confidence in the product at the point of sale because you're giving a long refund. And yeah, the other thing is if they don't implement and it goes and sits on the shelf and they forget, well, then they forget.
And it's on them, not you.
And it's on them, not you. And I think that, to me, is pretty much the most positive version of those 2 points that you just made.
Nice work, mate. Well, on that, I think my voice is starting to go.
On its way out. All right, folks. Well. Hopefully that was another useful episode for you. I'm gonna do a bit of a wrap up because I'm worried about Pete and his voice. The action step that we talked about there, just to remind you that if there is a delay in the delivery of your product, put something in the transaction to reinforce the purchase decision. The example I gave was the luxury car purchase and just reminding people what the engine might sound like when they buy it. But the other thing is, as Pete said, is reduce the friction of implementation. Make sure that it's easy for people to use the thing. Even if you're selling on a product that somebody else has made, maybe think about adding your own instructions or your own support for that makes it easy for them to get what they need. Just look for those opportunities on the front end as well to make sure that the right person is buying the right product. And don't be afraid to dissuade people from buying with, as Pete called it, negative qualifications. So I'm really glad Pete brought that one up because I think there's a bunch of good points in that. Thank you everybody for listening this week. A reminder, by the way, folks, you should have seen over on PreneurMedia.tv, which is the site that holds all of our podcasts, all of the show notes, all of the transcriptions of all the shows, and a download point so you can download the audio file yourself, so you don't have to go to iTunes. That's PreneurMedia.tv. Those transcripts are now being done by our supplier, a chap called Matthew. Very good chap, very efficient guy, and he's made an offer to PreneurCast listeners. If you go to gettranscribed.com, the link's below in the show notes, don't panic, and mention PreneurCast, he'll give you a 25% discount off your first order. And he's a very reasonably priced anyway, so that's a super bargain. So we use Matthew now for the transcriptions for PreneurCast, so if you want to see the kind of work he does, go take a look on PreneurMedia.tv. While you're over there, please do have a look and leave us a comment if you like what we're doing, or you can leave us a comment on iTunes if you're listening via iTunes, or send us an email to PreneurCast@preneurgroup.com. And finally, a little reminder, everybody, don't forget there is, over at 7levers.com, there's the home study version of the 7 Levers of Business training course. And if you sign up over at 7levers.com, you also get access to our Preneur Platinum members community, where Pete and I are in there every day, directly answering people's questions, as well as you being able to have a discussion with like-minded entrepreneurs. So pop over and take a look at 7levers.com. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. Pete and I will be back next week. Hopefully Pete will be over this difficulty with his voice. Either that or I'm going on the Barry White angle and seeing if we can make a product.
I'll start learning how to sing.
You do that. See you next week, everybody.
See you guys.
You've been enjoying another fine episode of PreneurCast with Pete Williams and Dom Gosher. Make sure to hang out with the boys online at PreneurMedia.tv or drop them a line via PreneurCast@PreneurGroup.com.